The very first show that you graced this channel on, Max, you brought up no, seriously, it was Zaxx and Amanda Manethrin. You talked about how we can't just offer and say things suck without offering some hope.
Mm.
And that stuck with me. The hope that we can have is, first of all, not to get religious, but God helps those that help themselves. And the way you can help yourself is by getting physical media. Don't trust that what you know is going to be on a streaming service. Buy a DVD. You could probably pick up the Lord of the Rings at the thrift store for $3 or $4 or $5. You own the physical media. No one can ever find it problematic and remove certain scenes. Same thing with the books. Get the books, get the paperbacks. Don't trust that your e-reader is always going to be there and work. The other thing is we are each of us responsible for our own fandom. We are each of us responsible for keeping the hope alive. It's not just YouTube channels. It's all of us being an advocate, to use their language, being an advocate for Tolkien, because Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien now and Priscilla Tolkien, sadly, cannot speak for themselves. We cannot let the only source of Tolkien truth be the air quotes Tolkien Society, and certainly not the clown show that is the OneRing.net. These self-appointed people, we've already seen what they are. They have shown us what they're about. When people show you who they are, believe them. So it's up to each one of us. Reach out to us, talk to us, find people on social media, find people, comment on our YouTube pages, come and talk to each other, start your own channels, talk about Tolkien, why you love them. That's what's going to keep this alive. That's organic. What Amazon and these corporations are doing by inflicting their corporate mandated changes is not, and it will not stay. They can pretend it does and it has any meaning at all, but we at the end of the day are the ones that say whether it does or not. Let me do this from a troubled green. She says, I think it's time to make our own hope. We can't let this keep going. We have to artistically create out hope for the future. Alasia, you and I were doing the Vulcan mind meld on that one. You're right. It's up to us. And I think we see that in a lot more things than just pop culture. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to kick this one out to Purple. What do you think? Am I a raving lunatic?
No, not at all. I absolutely agree. And we've seen it more and more. I used to be against gatekeeping. I thought it was a terrible idea. But now that I've seen what's happened to so many IPs and so many beloved franchises, I am all for it. And it is the fans who keep it alive. If you think back to various other fandoms where there wasn't any media or any presence out there, it was the fans who kept it going. And the same with Tolkien. We have had a big gap since Peter Jackson's films, but it hasn't diminished in popularity.
Do you guys think that gatekeeping has always had to be a constant and that we kind of let up within the past 5 to 10 years? Or do you think it was never really an issue because people respected more of the written, original text or original film or original source material? Because now more than ever, like you said, Purple, initially I was like, maybe, gatekeeping does it, but now I'm like, dude, we need gatekeep. We need security guards. We need, knights at the front gate holding the line. It just seems like we've had to really turn on. We've had to hit that button and go full protector mode to be on alert. So do you guys think that gatekeeping has always been a factor and that we let off the gas, or is this now something that is just much more prevalent now?
Purple, can I reinforce the patriarchy here?
Please do.
Okay. It's not gatekeeping calling out crap. If anything, you are encouraging them to read the real thing. That's true. It's true. For me, and again, I'm Gen X through and through, I never thought that people would take these things for granted.
Yeah.
I'm not being modeling. I never thought anybody could look at these things and look at their history and look at these works and then dump gasoline on it and set it on fire and say, look what I did. I still struggle with this. And it's a blind spot that I have because I've shared my stories and why fantasy was so important to me. I didn't have the greatest growing up and whatever, add it to the list, right? I'm not the only one. But the escape, the refuge, the giving of hope, the hero's journey. These things were what helped us overcome our circumstances and to learn that there was more than just what was happening at the moment. What I'm seeing, and this may be entirely unfair, is that somewhere between my generation and where we are now, people seem to be locked only in this moment. That apparently no history has ever occurred before now. And that if it did, it's all wrong and needs to be either erased or corrected or shamed and deconstructed. Which, to me, I don't know how you fight other than to get in its face and tell it what it was. What we are facing is not just about Tolkien. It is about Western civilization and Western culture and the things that my grandparents fought in World War II for. And that there are people on this panel who served in the armed forces to protect the right of free expression and these things that we hold true. And I find it very troubling that every effort seems to be made in our culture and in the educational system to take these things away from us. And I just don't see how it ends well, and I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I never really thought of it as gatekeeping. It was just simply we were fans, and if there's one thing that you can say about fandoms is that they were always welcoming, and that's another thing that we've heard time and time again recently. How people felt that they weren't invited or that they were made to feel different because they didn't fit in. Was never the case, at least in my experience. If you were a fan of something, you were always welcome there. So I think it will swing back. I think we will see an end to this nonsense, but at the same time, I think we do have to hold the line. It's going to take a little bit longer, unfortunately. And I think this Lord of the Rings is one of those things that has really motivated people. It's very, very heartening to see not just huge Tolkien fans, but regular fans, have kind of come out and said that we really don't like what you're giving us.
Gosh, that was such a great explanation, and thank you for saying that, because we do forget that sometimes fandoms should be open to everyone. They should be welcoming of everyone. And when I hear, what's her name, the woman who played Daenerys in Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke, yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, she wrote a great comic book. Sorry.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started. That's, I think, still to this day, my longest YouTube video, other than my live streams. But one of the first things that she says, which is a complete lie, and I guarantee it never happened, was that she was bullied out of comic book shops because they were no girls allowed, or she would get weird looks as she was in there. Probably because a lot of these guys are nerds and they don't interact with pretty women. So that's, if anything, that's probably what she would have seen. But it's just this fallacy that people would think that fandom has never been inclusive of everyone. And it's unfortunate that people feel that way. The X-Men is a great example of including every type of mutant and human. It is bridging the gap between outsiders and people who don't feel like they fit in, and the popular crowd or people who are secure in themselves, and in bridging that gap in all fandoms and all communities. So thank you for saying that, Purple, because I tend to forget that at times, that this was a beautiful thing, and gatekeeping never had to be around because everyone was welcome in.
Yeah.
Because they never wanted to destroy it. And that was what was different, though, I think. You pull up any director or writer's Twitter right now, and it says, director, producer, activist, or director, producer, Black Lives Matter. And it says whatever current thing that they're supporting in their Twitter headline. And I always follow a comic book writer when it just says, writer, family man, so-and-so, whatever. It just says what they are, and it doesn't list any activist movement. And I love that. I think that's really it's authentic. It's genuine.
I just want to thank Max for saying fallacy. I'm not sure whether that was a Freudian slip or whether it was a pun, but thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll spell that one. I remember in the 80s, I picked up my first Dungeons and Dragons, here old man's talking, when in 82. And we would have died to have anybody come and play with us, not just us, lower income, poor kids, with our dice bags. Same thing in high school, trying to girls that I was seeing, trying to turn them on a Blade Runner, The Princess Bride, sitting there being that annoying dork who quotes the whole damn movie when she's trying to watch it for the first time. It's like, it's our passion for it. We want people to be as excited about these things as we are. Nobody said, oh, you're a smelly girl, you can't be in here, or your race is not conducive with my belief system, so you can't be here. And it's like, that's a fallacy. Just because Purple likes that word. That is I think the academic term is a bullshit narrative, which a lot of academics seem to have built careers on manufacturing artificial supply for their grievance demands.
It's become very, very popular as of recent.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, from my experience, I have never felt unwelcome in a comic book store, in a convention, in a gaming store, ever.
Purple, did anyone tell you that you can't like Doctor Doom? Did anyone tell you can't go to conventions?
If they ever did, I didn't pay any attention to them.
Oh, do you mean you were self-actualized and thought for yourself? Interesting concept.
She's actually a strong woman who has confidence and pride in what she does, and didn't listen to haters if there were, those.
Yeah. And she probably packs a mean wallop when she gets her ire up.
For someone who's 5'1", you would be surprised. Yes.
That's why I would be scared, because she's got the leverage. You know what I mean? So like, she punches up,
I feel a low center of gravity.
Yeah, you've got all your weight like leveraging against someone who's much taller than you. That's frightening.
Yeah. Women's center of gravity, and again, I'm not a biologist, is in their hips, and I'm 6'5", and if someone's that 5'1" is going to hit me, I can't prepare for that. That's not in my line of sight. You know what I mean? That's like that's like another elevation, so they're dangerous. It's like a ninja, only it's Purple Valkyrie,
Has ever. This is Salty Texas C. I am Corey DB. Thanks so much for watching. If you've liked what you've seen and heard, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you on board. That way and we have things like live streams, which we are now going to be doing every Tuesday evening. Take care. I hope you're having a great 2022.